which is like the buyer consultation, if you would. So will you talk us through big picture?
When I first get a lead in, I tell them I'm going to email them my buyer's packet. That way they at least have all the information. And then I tell them we're still going to go over it during our meeting as well. I don't like to show houses until I have that meeting. Had a few instances where all of a sudden I did. I've always regretted it and been like, I should have just stuck to my plan.
How do you have that conversation with someone that's like, I thought you were going to send me properties?
I tell them I'm going to send them whatever I find. I look at it once a day. I'm not looking at multiple times, but I do tell them, like, if you're already looking on Zillow, Zillow knows exactly what you want. You're looking at those houses and Zillow will start emailing you.
This is the Agent Goldmine, where you'll find real talk, and ambition. We're here to build real businesses and be more than your average agent. We want to know what killers are actually doing within their businesses, the reality of it, all tactical, no fluff. So we're here to find out. Please share and enjoy.
What? Rebecca! Welcome to our freaking show. Come hang out with us. We're fun, I promise. You won't regret it. Oh my god. Okay,
Thanks for jumping on, Rebecca.
Right. And just so you know how, actually, I don't even know, Allie, if you know this is the fun story about Rebecca. I mean, there's actually a lot of fun stories, but the super fun one is like, if you follow her on social media, you're like expecting like real estate this and real estate that. And you do get real estate, but you also get like a lot of bunnies, a lot of like plants, a lot of, because Rebecca she's a homesteader, dude. She's like a farmer, like a real farmer in her backyard. Did you know that?
I did not know that. You have green thumbs, Rebecca.
Yep.
Yeah. She like
She's
nerds
like,
out
yeah.
on like, yeah, no big deal. So anyway,
Made
it's
it ready
super
for
fun.
our farm.
See, like a legit one. And that's what we've had John on before, but you guys, are you still planning on like the 200 acres, like not speaking to humans in the future and having a real farm?
Oh yeah. As soon as our youngest graduates high school.
Yeah.
So a couple more years.
You just leave us, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah.
But
That's cool.
okay, Allie, hit us with some stats for Rebecca.
So I guess after or maybe before you start your farming day, I don't know how farming works. You've been an agent for a year and a half. You're a part of 5 Pillars. You are out in Fayetteville. And in the last year, you've done 16 closings as a solo agent, which we're all solo, which is amazing. So freaking congrats, especially since you've been an agent for only a year and a half. You've done more than 16, but just in the last year, you're doing 16. What you have most on lock, I'm going to just share this before we actually get there, is the buyer consultation and the buyer process and the buyer expectations, which is so hard for some agents to like get over and like lay down the law from the beginning. So I'm super excited to hear how you do it. Hopefully we can role play and I'm excited. But before we get there, Rebecca, what is your show moment? Hit us.
Well, I figured I'll stick with real estate since that's what this one's about. But most of 5 Pillars has already heard my story. It happened a couple months ago. I was doing a showing for an investor, which is just a video showing because he wasn't there. And I was making my way through the property, flipping on lights. I had rang the doorbell and knocked on it several times beforehand because I had seen that there was a car there, with no response. So I was going into one of the bedrooms and flipped on a light, and there is a dude sleeping in his bed, jumping up, asking me what I'm doing. So needless to say, I just kind of told him that I will come back at a different time and kind of walked out and just started turning off lights and locked up and left.
Was it the right house?
It was the right house. I talked to the agent afterwards, and apparently it was the owner's grown son. They forgot to tell him that I was coming early in the morning.
The deadbeat. Oh my gosh.
The deadbeat. Yeah.
Luckily there was no.
Luckily there's no guns. Are you
no guns.
North Carolina, this could have been so bad.
Bro.
Yes, it could have been really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily there was no guns, and luckily I didn't have a client with me, so it was just going to be videos. So I hadn't even started.
So did you get it on video?
I didn't because I was I did because I was just going through flipping on the lights for the video.
Oh, gotcha.
So I hadn't even started, which is probably good.
Dude, I'm glad you're alive.
Yeah.
But before that, how did you, I don't know what Fayetteville is like. Do you typically have to use showing time around there? Or like, how did the coordination go beforehand?
So yeah, you use showing time. So I had scheduled it over 24 hours in advance. I knew it was owner occupied, but I wasn't quite ready for someone to still be there. So
Dude, that's scary.
So fun. Yeah, yeah, super scary. Okay, so now that we've like scared off people from wanting to get into real estate. No, just kidding. Okay, talk about before real estate. Why'd you want to get your license, and then kind of lead us to where we are now?
We love your DMs on Instagram, and as long as you don't sound like a bot or aren't sharing your overnight crypto success, hit us up on Instagram. Let's be friends. We're at The Shelby Show and at Allie the Agent.
Okay. Well, before real estate, I was a stay-at-home mom for the longest time. So my youngest went back to school in kindergarten. So I went back to school, got my physical therapist assistant license. I worked at Cape Fear Hospital in their spinal cord rehab center for 3 years. I really got tired of just having to constantly ask for time off, especially since I was a stay-at-home mom for so long. I wasn't used to doing that. And if you didn't have PTO time, they would tell you no. Or I was picking up weekends to cover those days. So I was working almost every single weekend just because I had 3 kids. Someone needs an appointment almost every month. And then when COVID hit, it was more just the fact that I knew I was about to lose my job because I can't get the shot. And my doctor wouldn't give me a medical exemption because he said the government was coming down on all providers. So I knew I was going to lose my job at that point. So since we were already doing real estate investing, I felt like I already knew the real estate realm. So I decided, I came home and told John, I was like, I'm going to go get my real estate license. And I took night classes up until I lost my job. I lost my job a week before I got my license. So it worked out almost perfect.
Whoa,
but
pretty good timing.
Yeah.
Wow.
God. Dude, that's
I'm
so
surprised
funny.
you actually did lose your job. Only saying that because the military, I feel like, had such a big push. Like, hey, if you don't get your shots, I'm talking military civilians, or rather civilians that work for the for the DoD. They're like, hey, you're going to get fired. But at the end of the day, they did not.
Yeah.
So,
So I was actually working at Womack when I got let go because I
It's
had
the
switched
military,
from Cape.
the Army hospital here.
Yep. So
Okay.
I had switched from Cape Fear to Womack that same year. So I was only there for about 6 months. So I was still in probation. So they let all the people in probation go.
Oh,
And right after I got let go, they were like, oh, we're just going to make sure whoever didn't get it, we're just going to test you every day.
Oh my God.
wow. What?
Yeah. And then my supervisor tried to get me to come back. But I was at that point, I was already done. So I was like, nope, which I didn't tell John about because he was so scared.
Dude, this is so funny.
So
I think
scared.
I want to go back and like listen to John's episode now because I'm pretty sure he was like, yeah, I like convinced my wife to get her license. And now you're like, I came home and told it, like he got exposed. He got exposed.
Yes, he just did. He was so nervous because I'm an introvert. So he was more worried that I wouldn't be able to get clients and stuff like that. So I think he was more nervous than I was. And I was just like, nope, this is what's happening. I'm done.
Oh my God. Okay. Time frame though. when did you lose your job?
November 2021.
Okay. So November 2021. By this point, you had been working nurse. Is that what I call it?
No, physical therapist assistant.
Yeah,
So,
that's
physical
the
therapy.
word. In my head, I was like, medical is one thing. It's not. Okay, so you were doing the physical therapy, and then you and John Fortier, who's on another episode, were real estate investing before, and then you decided to get your license. And so what did that first year look like? Walk us through that.
The first year was kind of a whirlwind. Yeah, because I joined Five Pillars December 2021. I had my first client by January, and I was working with 2 at one time. So I guess my first 2 by January. And we just kind of went from there. I mean, it was kind of a whirlwind. It was still when the market was super, super hot, where you were still offering 20, 30,000 over asking for most properties. I had one client, my first buyer, we had put in probably 15 offers in that first month. So I got really good at writing offers right off the bat. But we had put in 15. She was offering 15 and 20,000 over asking with appraisal gap addendums of at least 10,000. We had her due diligence money was almost all the way up to 12 grand. And we were still not getting accepted offers. So, I mean, it was a tough market. So I feel like the first few months was just really crazy. But within probably the second month, she had her offer accepted. But it was fun.
Oh my gosh. And that due diligence money out there in North Carolina, is that all non-refundable? You guys do like non-refundable
Correct.
shit, right?
Yes, correct.
Damn.
So I like to tell my buyers too that that's money that is a compensation to the seller for taking their house off the market. That's how I like to explain it, because it's gone unless you make it to the closing table.
Yeah. Yeah. In Arizona, we don't do that, but that is a good way to get our offers accepted, because we do offer like refundable earnest money, but also some non-refundable earnest money in a buyer's, in a crazy seller's market rather. Okay. You mentioned before that you had, or maybe John had some hesitation of you being a realtor because you're an introvert. How did you get these clients right off the bat? Especially, do you consider yourself an introvert? How did you get these clients? Everything.
Well, I do consider myself an introvert. 10 years ago, I don't think I could have done real estate. I definitely would not, but I went and talked to strangers about 10 years ago. John has really pushed me. I think with our whole marriage, he's been really good for me because he has pushed me out of my comfort zone, pushed me out of my bubble. And my first few clients actually came from him. So most of my clients came from him. That's why I knew he'd be fine when he said he was switching to be an agent. Because he was like, every time he heard someone, he's like, oh, you should go with my wife. Go with my wife. So, I mean, he was out there telling everyone about me.
Yeah, because he's in the military community sphere, right? So he has access to that. That's how I have those talks with Britt as well. I'm like, Britt, don't just get their information, or rather, don't just give out my information, get theirs, and then start the group chat.
Yep. Totally. And that's something that I think is interesting. A lot of people don't talk about it for like a lead gen strategy, but I saw it recently on a locker room, the locker room coaching program, that it's called like core advocates, where it's not just like touching your sphere. It's getting people within your sphere who are willing to like lay their neck on the line and like shout your name from the rooftops and truly generate the business. Not just like, oh, like my wife has her license, but like, yo, dude, like seriously, you have to use her, follow up, like press. And looking back now, that's actually how I generated a lot of my business that first year too. So that's super cool and good for John. And so you said your first 2 clients?
Yeah, my first 2 came from him. And then my third one was actually Lee from Shelby. I don't know if you remember her. It was Caitlin. She was the one that you texted me and said, hey, she's already looking at a house right now. And when I contacted her, she's like, I'm looking at this condo. I'm looking in the windows right now. Or a townhouse, actually. It was a townhouse. Looking in the window, she's like, I want to put an offer in. She goes, the deadline's in 2 hours. Can you do it?
Oh my God. Dude, I don't remember her at all, but I'm glad that you do.
I do, because that was my craziest and probably one of my biggest lessons I learned during that offer. Yeah, so her offer got accepted. She did a crazy amount over. We put it in literally 5 minutes before the deadline. And then she switched lenders on me in the middle of it, which was only a week in, but it was still enough to where it started messing with closing. And then all of a sudden, all this repair stuff came back. So we had to renegotiate a couple different times. She had like a $15,000 appraisal gap addendum, which was insane. And it appraised super, super low. So she was going to have to come up with that $15,000. And then she's got rental properties somewhere else and had a pipe burst. So then all of a sudden she didn't have the money because now she had paid off to pay for this rental house that the pipe burst. So we had to go back and renegotiate again, asking them to allow us to come in lower than the appraisal gap addendum, just so that so we didn't have to walk away. But we ended up having to push closing, I think, about 2 weeks because it just seemed like it was one thing after another that was just coming up.
But you closed?
Yes, we did close. Yes.
Dude, the best feeling. After like every storm possible, and you finally like make it happen. You're like, I win.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the importance of getting a HELOC before you even talk to a lender, just to have some extra money available, just in case your pipes freaking burst somewhere. That's crazy. Yeah. So take us to where you are now in the business. How have you continued generating clients, and where's your business at now?
So John's taken over our marketing because we're kind of working more as a husband and wife team. And then I'm also doing mentor stuff for EXP. So I have been taking on several different mentors while he's been taking on the majority of people because he also need to get so many sales to get out of the mentor program. So we kind of started pushing them all onto him. And then I've just been taking over some of the TC work for him, honestly, just because just to keep it going. And I have the time a little bit since most of them have been pushed onto him. But yeah, so we're just trying to work as a team, figure out how it goes, make it more smooth for us.
And with the team too, that's like a super low cap. I always forget because my spouse isn't, a realtor. Is it $5,000 cap, like
So,
combined or something like that?
so we're not a team completely yet. We had talked to EXP about switching underneath just one person, and you can have it to where it's like a team and it's like a husband, it's like a domestic, they call it a husband-wife domestic team. But in order for us to do that, everything that we have already done for this year doesn't count because it would restart our capping.
Oh, gotcha.
So
As individuals.
As individuals, right. And John's already he's already getting there. I think he's over 40%. I think he's about over 40. So we're just trying to get him to cap first. And then we're going to wait until I think it's his anniversary is going to roll over first. And then we might join into the domestic team. So that way it'd just be one cap for next year.
Yeah. And that's Allie, I'm pretty sure it's instead of them each having a cap, it's just one cap that they share. So it's essentially like 8 each if you want to think about it that way. Or like in their case, it sounds like, John's doing the marketing and the sales and Rebecca's doing mentorship and TC. So they would close under John. And I could be wrong. I'm taking notes, Rebecca.
They are.
Very structured.
I think it is. I think it is combined to 16. So if he's already at 40%, then you guys would like almost be there, I think.
Right. So that's the reason why we don't want to join the domestic team just yet.
Timing.
Or become one. Yeah, we're trying
Makes
to time
sense.
it. We're trying to time it for when his rolls over. I still have some underneath my name. It's mostly any of the referrals that I'm getting. We're still putting underneath my name. But for the majority of it, we're trying to put all of them underneath his.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Cool. Later, we don't have to talk about it now, but later I would like to talk about the mentorship program. And how okay, let's do that now.
Yeah. I want to know. Yeah.
Being that I joined, when I became a realtor, I have only ever been with EXP. So I know what the mentorship is like from the mentee side of things. And I feel like I was a good mentee because I already had purchased several properties. Like I knew the process.
Of course.
So I only had like a couple of a couple. Oh, I had a lot of questions, but it wasn't like, hey, where do I start? I need you to hold my hand, all that. But I imagine that there are a ton of agents that need handholding. How do you handle all of that? What kind of processes do you have?
Yeah. And also like, what does the actual mentorship program look like too? Both. And we love asking compound questions just to really, you up
yeah, it's always 4 at a time. So remember
right.
all of them.
remember all. Okay. Ready to go. Yeah.
So we'll see how this works. So I'm in the process of building out how I'm working with my mentees as I'm working with them and as I'm learning more too as well. I originally didn't want to be a mentor. Just funny. I became a mentor because John was getting his license, and instead of him getting 60%, if I'm his mentor, I get the other 10%. So it would get 70%. So it's really the reason why I became a mentor. And then Shelby asked me to take on somebody, and I have a hard time saying no to people. I don't know how to say no. So I said, sure, let me just take this one person. I'll just take on one other person.
Dude, I send you people all the time now. I'm like, can you take another? Can you take another?
I know.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. So, yeah. So that's how I became a mentor. And then I realized I actually really like it. So, which is funny because I thought it for so long too. But I actually like the teaching part. So that part is not too hard, honestly. But I'm creating almost like a pipeline, like our first meeting, this is what we're going to go over. And I have a meeting, what we're going to go over each meeting. And then I'm also creating Loom videos on how-tos, like how to do the transactions in SkySlope, which I know 5 Pillars also has a little bit of those too as well. But sometimes mentees don't look at all the stuff that's in there, or they just get lost when they start looking at the 5 Pillars, all their stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Yeah,
there's so much.
So I have found that right after the meeting, then I send them that Loom video, which I'm still creating and still building out the Loom videos. So I'm just sending out the ones that I have going off of that meeting. So that way it's still fresh. They can do it. And I'm having them do homework in the process of that. I'm not checking because to me, you're a grown person. Like you should be doing what you want to do for your business. And you should also, what I'm giving you as homework is just tools for you to use in your business. It's really up to them if they want to use it or not. And then I'm just available for if they have any questions. And I set my meetings every 2 weeks. So it's 2 weeks out. So it's usually about 2 mentees right now each week that I'm having to meet with. Some of them
because you guys meet weekly, right? Like the mentorship
every 2
program
weeks.
meets? Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
That's what we meant. So sorry.
No,
Okay, gotcha.
no. So the mentorship program, like they have like a mastermind for the mentors once a month, but you can set up how much frequency you want to meet your mentee. Like they recommend it's probably weekly. I tell them unless they have a deal under contract, we're only meeting every 2 weeks. But I'm also available through text message. I tell them text me if they need me, and I respond pretty quickly. So it's not really like that 2 weeks is like, don't talk to me until we hit that meeting. So it's not like that. So
Yeah.
so a lot of times it almost becomes too much because sometimes they stay in the mentorship program for so long that you start running out of what to do for meetings. So at that point,
Until
it's like,
they
well,
get that
just,
client and then they know what to do.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, like, dude, I try, Allie and I talk to people all the time. We're like, the most important thing, actually, Allie, correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I say. The most important thing is to lead gen, is the marketing piece of your business, because none of the other matters and none of it will stick until you have someone to actually work with, So.
Yeah, 1000%. I actually applied to be an EXP mentor. I want to talk about what the requirements for a mentor, because we're just like how you run your mentorship portion of your business, but not everyone can be a mentor. And I know that every state has like different qualifications. I never go to the EXP Tuesday state meetings. So they're like, you can't be a mentor. And I'm like, we have meetings. So I was denied, even though I did 20 transactions my first year. Okay, whatever. Do you know what the requirements are for North Carolina? Because
I do.
not everyone could just be a mentor.
Well, I do for North Carolina. So you have to have at least 10 transactions to become a mentor. And then you just take their mentor. You have to have your BIC pretty much say, yes, you can do the mentorship program. And they have to send in their stuff. Like, I don't really think it's very much. They just have to say yes to it. And then you just apply for the mentorship program. And then you take a course. It's like I finished it in 2 days. It's only a couple hours. And that was
You don't have to go to the state meetings every Tuesday or every whatever day it is.
I
never go.
Allie, they made up that rule for you. They're like,
I found it. I was like, I'm looking into this. Yeah. Dude, because I was like growing my team fast, right? And I was like, hey, I'm already mentoring them. Like if I'm already mentoring them and the mentor, they're not giving them the most that they can, let me just be their mentor. So. But I actually found the rule, and they added it in there after I spoke to them. They were like, you have to attend at least like 80% of whatever. I'm like, out of how many? Out of the year? Out of the month?
Right.
I have no idea.
Specifics.
But I was like, all right, F out of here.
Yeah.
Dude, and
I don't go to them either, so I don't know. I don't know why they would require that.
Literally never been. Okay, Rebecca, question. So is this, Allie, I don't know if you know this. This blew my mind the other day. I was asking Rebecca for the curriculum of what a mentee goes through because, of course, like we're working on building out so many additional resources for 5 pillars, but I didn't want to double tap on what already existed in EXP. So I was like, Rebecca, like, where's this curriculum? And she's like, oh, you just go to Mind Flash, which, okay. It's called, did you know this? And then there's like an entire course catalog. There's like I have courses in there that I did as an icon instructor that they've logged in there. And I literally did not even know this existed. Did you know?
Yeah. Of course. God. I had to go through it because I was a mentee, right?
Oh,
so I was a brand new agent when I joined EXP. So I had to go through the mentorship program and it was a good program. There was like a lot. I thought it was going to be pretty much like real estate course, 2.0, but it was learning LP Mama. It was learning lead generation strategies. It was how to cold call. It was good. Like that actually got you started. And if that didn't get you started, then like redo the course, it is like, it helps you. And then therefore there's so that the mentors can leverage that training so much. Be like, hey, just go back to this unit, like do that again, before you come to me, do that portion again. It helps.
That blew my mind. It really did. There's so many courses in there. But okay, we went off to the side. Anything else? What else questions for the mentorship program?
I ran out. I think I exhausted. Is there anything we didn't cover on the mentorship program, Rebecca?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's still kind of a debate on how many for North Carolina you're supposed to have. We're hoping it's 3. You have to have at least 3 in your PB status as a full broker. But when I went through the mentorship program, even the mentorship program teaches that it's 6. So, and then depends on who you ask. So we will see how that goes. I haven't had a mentee leave before 6, so we will see if I do get one. I will let everyone know and update everyone.
Huh. Yeah, I think that might be like only North Carolina thing. 'Cause I'm seeing other states are still at the 3. You only need to do 3 transactions and then you're out of the mentor program. Then you're on to the 80-20 split. I've seen that for multiple states.
And it was 3 when I went through the mentorship program. It was
Same.
only 3. So I don't know where the hang up is, but EXP needs to get their shit together and be able to tell all of it together at one person. Because if you ask one person, they give you different answers each time.
Yeah.
It seems like so.
And it's also like up to the mentor to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a mentor. I think it's also up to the mentor too, where if you think that mentee is like, you can request that they stay in the mentor program longer. Am I wrong?
I don't know if you can request them to stay in longer, but there is a spot where you can ask for them to graduate earlier. So you can say that they know enough to where you can graduate them earlier than those amount of transactions, as long as they're a full broker. They have to be a full broker. If not, they won't be able to take them out of it.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually negotiated my commission of the 10% that goes to the mentor because I barely used him. I was like, dude, I got it. You know, like, yeah. So that is also possible too, if you know what you're doing.
You're with a good team. So
yeah, no, exactly.
Okay. I think it's time to shift. I think we're ready to shift into your deep dive, which is dance time. Always dance time for me and Allie. Which is like the buyer consultation, if you would. So will you talk us through like big picture, and then we can go all the way down into like the tactical leads?
Okay. When I first get a lead in, I tell them I'm going to email them my buyer's packet. That way they at least have all the information. And then I tell them we're still going to go over it during our meeting as well. And then I always schedule that meeting. I don't like to show houses until I have that meeting. Had a few instances where all of a sudden I did, and I've always regretted it and been like, I should have just stuck to my plan and have that meeting just to be able to go over everything. North Carolina is a weird state when it comes to, real estate and selling it. They have some funny laws on different things that, especially if they're coming from out of state, they might not know. They could have bought a house in a different state and they think it goes completely different. But North Carolina, it does lots of funny things different ways. So I like to go over during that meeting, like all the main necessities of how to sell a home, like the due diligence, talk about the difference. The due diligence and the earnest money is a big, big one because it's hard for buyers to wrap their head around that money doesn't come back.
Yeah.
So that's always a very, very big one. And then just going into like, what do they want to look for? What type of house are they looking for to make sure you're sending them the correct things? I also like to tell the buyers during the consult that, hey, Zillow notifies you as soon as something hits the market. They believe that there's this delay. And I'm like, there's no delay. Zillow pulls it directly from the MLS and it's there within minutes. So most of the time you're going to see houses before I see them. So I always tell them too, send me whatever you want. And that's also going to help you to decide, like, what are they looking at? What are they looking for? Because they're going to send you everything they like. So it also helps you to be able to narrow down the search when you're showing these houses.
Okay.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I want to mention super quick on the Zillow. That is not in every market. In our
really?
Market,
it's here.
Tucson. Wow. In Pima County, it does not take minutes. It takes half a day. Yeah. Right at like the peak of the market, clients were sending us homes from Zillow. And I was like, no, they're gone under contract. They're gone under contract. So that's the importance of what I tell like the agents, especially here in Pima County or Southern Arizona, of using the EXP website, because the EXP website is linked in with IDX directly to the MLS. So like, it's kind of a little bit of a, not really, but like that website being that it's like MLS that is linked. So that's interesting that Zillow is quick in your area. That's good.
Yeah, it's very quick. I mean, I've even tested it every time I've listed a house. I've had my seller immediately be like, oh, I just saw it hit Zillow. And I'm like, I literally just pushed the button 5 minutes ago. So in Fayetteville, it's very, very fast. And it updates you as soon as it goes pending. It tells you it's pending now or it's under contract. And it will email the buyer saying, this house you've been looking at is now pending. So they know faster than I know sometimes that house is now pending. So yeah, I do tell them that, yes, look at Zillow for at least Fayetteville area. I didn't know it was different areas. Honestly, that's good to know. But Fayetteville does hit pretty fast. And I don't know if it's just because they're linked with longleaf pine is linked with them. So maybe that's why, because it acts like a like similar to the EXP site. I honestly don't have anyone that uses my website.
Yo, real quick, this podcast is not free. Cost of admission is sharing with a buddy who'd benefit or throwing it on your Instagram story. Tag us. We'll reshare that.
Well, I would say maybe try, because that website is nice with the way that you can do the campaigns and everything. Have them text out for you in your freaking sleep, and then you wake up to text saying, "Yeah, I'm ready to buy." You're like, "What? Let's go!"
Yeah, I've
go
tried
ahead,
to get
Shelby.
people to use my address all the time, but for some reason, this area, no one likes to use my website.
Okay, my question, I have two questions, but I'm just going to hit you with one because we're going to be nicer. Okay, what's in your buyer's packet?
Okay,
What's in there when you attach
what's
it?
in there? My buyer packet, there's an intro to me on who I am with my picture, because a lot of times these people I'm sending them to have not actually met me and don't know what I look like. And I also help a lot of out-of-state investors as well as buyers. So I just like to also have a photo in there so they at least know who they're talking to. And of course, I mean, it's in my signature too, but it's kind of nice seeing the intro, I think. At least I think so. Then I have the buyer's roadmap is usually in there. I have a example of the offer to purchase. I have an example of working with real estate agents, since that's North Carolina compliance. And I have an example of professional service disclosures, all the documents that they're going to be filling out at some point. I have examples of those in there. And then I have I got it from the 5 Pillars website, actually, or the 5 Pillars thing. It is how to make your offer, it talks about offering, like your offers, and how to make them strong and stuff like that. And talks about the differences, like how much is due diligence going for right now, earnest money going for, what's your typical closing costs type of stuff is all in there. And I usually have something about VA lending in there.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And that is probably not the contracts, but maybe the buyer's roadmap and like cost to expect type of thing. Ooh, and the intro to Rebecca will be your golden nugget. Is that correct?
Okay,
I'll put that in there for it.
Okay, so yeah, if people are looking for a buyer's packet example, it's theagentgoldmine.com to steal Rebecca's and use it in your own business. That makes sense. So now I'm curious, like you said that you sent them the buyer's packet and that initial email. And then in that email, are you setting up like a Zoom to talk about these things? Is it a call? Like, what does that look like?
So I have in there like an introduction to me, to 5 Pillars team, as well as in my email, as well as to who me and my husband are. And then I have the bullet points of what an offer also looks like still. And I have in there too, like a link that talks about working with real estate agents. So that way they can click on that and watch it. So that way it's more for compliance. So there's nothing North Carolina can say that I did not show that to them or talk to them immediately as soon as you talk to them. So I have that link in there as well. And then on the bottom, I have steps of what's next to do. The first one is to set up a meeting with me. And I put in there in person, Zoom, FaceTime, whatever, or even just a regular phone call, whatever they're comfortable with. And I give them my next week's schedule. Ask me what day, time, and what they prefer the meeting to look like. So if that's a phone call, FaceTime, Zoom, or in person, to let me know what they prefer. And then I have to sign my buyer agency agreement as number 2. And I put in their parentheses, this is going to be done after our meeting. And then step 3 is like we begin the house search.
Is that a video, the working with real estate agents? What does that cover? I've never heard of like a video as to how to work with
So it's just a YouTube video that probably a real estate agent made. I actually stole it from Yesenia from when I was her mentee. So I've always just used it because it was pretty good. But working with real estate agents for North Carolina, you have to talk to them about the different types of agencies. So like exclusive representation, dual agency, and dual designated agency. And you have to explain to them what the differences are in non-representative if they don't want to be represented at all on what that means. According to North Carolina, you have to have that at first initial contact. You have to tell them about it. That first initial contact, and they're supposed to sign it. So which I have in my email that we're going to be signing these documents at a later time. So that way they're prepared and they know, like, hey, these documents are going to be signed. But that's all it is, really. It's just a video that quickly explains each one.
Working with real estate agents, it's not like this, and it's not about you, Rebecca. I'm just saying, like, it's a weird North Carolina thing that they require you to do that really doesn't have any like legitimate information on the document that's required. It's not like, here's what to expect from me. It's not what you're thinking, Allie. Like, you're thinking much cooler. And so they get that email and then they read the what's next steps. Love what's next steps just in general. And then they schedule the meeting. And let's say hypothetically, Allie loves role play. Hypothetically,
Okay.
Allie chooses Zoom on the meeting and books the schedule with you. Like, would you mind walking us through a little bit of what that looks like?
Yep. Okay. So, hi, Allie. How are you doing today?
I am good. Wait, can we pause really quick? I know I'm pausing my own role play. So when I book the meeting, do you use a Calendly or how does that work? Or do we just like figure out a time and then I jump on your time?
I give them my time, like my openings for the next week. And I'm not so busy to where they just kind of get taken up. So they just tell me what time and day and I just stick them on my calendar. I haven't quite gotten how to use Calendly. I think John does. I just need to learn how to use it.
After this, we're going to hook you up, girl. It is the best. Yeah.
It is. It's $152 for the year. It is so worth it. You just say, hey, instead of the back and forth, here's my Calendly link. Book whenever you're ready. Also, another question before we start the role play. Do you work weekends? Like, could I be like, hey, I'm only available Saturday? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So I even put that in my email. So I'll give them dates and times from Monday to Friday. And then I tell them I'm available evenings and weekends upon request. Yeah. Because I usually try to save those for actual showings, but I'll meet with whoever needs to meet.
Okay. Yes. Let's dig into this role play. Okay. All right. I'm going to be a first-time home buyer. Hey, Rebecca. Yep. Thanks so much for meeting me. Well, yeah. First-time home buyer.
You guys are nailing this.
Yep. Okay. Hold on. I can get myself together now.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. Do you even prefer first-time home buyers or do you prefer working with investors? What is your forte?
I prefer home buyers, honestly. Okay. I feel like investors are a little snooty sometimes, and I don't really care too much for working with investors. I mean, which is funny because I work with a lot of them. I do work with a lot of them, but I prefer a regular home buyer. I feel like they close more too. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why I'm so nervous.
So at this point, I have seen your email, but I haven't signed anything, right? So this is my first time talking to you. I've seen your face.
Nothing has been signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. So we'll start off our meeting. I usually ask like how you're doing. I ask you a little bit about information about yourself and why you're coming to Fayetteville, especially if you're not here or if you're local. So usually when I have a phone call, I let them talk about them first because a lot of people like to talk about them. And I usually ask them what's bringing them to Fort Bragg if they're PCSing here or if they're moving here or if they're local, why they're wanting to buy a house at the moment, what they're looking for. I go into all those details before I go into all the paperwork and all the legal details. Then once I usually get an idea of what they're looking for, then I usually try to shift gears and I go over the the buying process with them. And during the buying processes, I go over the due diligence. I talk to them about the difference between due diligence and earnest. I usually tell them that I don't recommend earnest money right now because diligence money is all that matters to the seller. So there's no reason to put down double. You might as well put it all towards the diligence if they're comfortable. So I do still have some buyers that are doing earnest money just because they're not comfortable with all of it being a due diligence. But I usually tell them that's just what I recommend. And then I usually go over with them to what does a typical offer look like and all the different details of how we can structure different offers. So sometimes I'll mention the appraisal gap addendum, explain to them what that is, just that way we're not having those conversations when the first time is to put the offer in. Correct. So that way they're already understanding these things. And I find it's just easier when the offer goes put in and makes it more smoother because if not, you're spending an hour to 2 hours just trying to explain again all these different things of how to put the offer in. And then they get flustered and they start to get almost overwhelmed. So a lot of times if they know about these things ahead of time, they aren't going to be as flustered and overwhelmed. And it's not like new words are being thrown out at them. So I try to go over.
How long is this first call?
So I tell them it's typically going to be about an hour and a half.
Oh,
what I do. Yes.
You're like, and buckle up.
Yeah. And that's not to say that most of the time during the process of me working with them, we're still going to be going over a lot of this stuff again and again because it is a little overwhelming. I just don't want them to hear new terms and new words as we're going through the process. I want them to be like, oh yeah, we did go over that. So that way it's not a full explanation. Sometimes it's faster because some people don't talk as much. So I've had it happen within an hour, get everything done within an hour. But it just depends too on how long they talk, like how long they tell me, explain to me what they're looking for, and on how long it really takes. I've learned to kind of fly through it pretty fast.
Yeah, I bet.
But it's just more to get them their feet wet and get them to understanding just what to expect. And we do talk about like throughout the process, once they get accepted, I talk to them about the due diligence process, like how, putting in inspections. And I tell them how I review inspections and what I usually do, because I will review the inspection and then I will write the inspection request report off of everything I think needs to be added in there. Most of it's usually any safety concerns or anything that's actively broken or leaking. And then I have a call with them asking them, do you agree with these things? Or is there anything else you would like to add? Just so that way you're not having a 2-hour conversation about the inspection report.
Ooh, that is super interesting. Okay, so many questions. First question is this just the one, like, do you have everyone on a group call or this first time, or do you have, like, who all is at this call?
So whoever's going to be in the process. So if they're married, I want both of them on that phone call. I don't want just the one person, the main person. I do ask that they both be there and both be available. If it's just one person, then obviously it's just going to be that one person. But whoever is going to be involved in the purchase needs to be on the phone call.
I learned that lesson the hard way. My third transaction, I was only talking to the husband, and we all know husbands don't run. So the wife was like, what the f***? We're under contract and it's on this house. She was like, I want out. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh,
like, how
God.
could you not? I assumed you were like a man,
Right.
Yeah. How could you have not told your wife? Are you? Oh my God. I was like, never again will I talk to only you, like all parties. Yeah.
Yes, all parties. And then I also, like, after I explain all that stuff, I do tell them that what I offer as an agent. So I do go over what they can expect from me as an agent, and especially if they're PCSing here. I will do videos of the property, and I tell them I don't really like to do FaceTime videos with them actually on the phone because it takes so much longer. So I try to and then I have to schedule it around them.
Yeah.
I try to only do videos. There are 1-minute videos of the whole chart. So not just 1-minute video. I had someone ask me that before. It's multiple videos, just 1 minute long. So they're easier to upload.
Imagine if it wasn't 1-minute video.
Yeah,
like
she's
sprinting.
super fast. Super fast. Super fast.
Sweat pouring.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did have
God.
someone ask me that. They're like, it's only one video. And I said, no. It's multiple videos,
God.
just 1 minute long. And I do show them everything that's wrong with the property. I don't like say they're like, oh, look at this beautiful house. I do say that type of stuff, but I'm going to show you every nick and cranny that if there is a hole in the wall, or there's a hole in the carpet, or if I look up on the ceiling and there is a stain on the ceiling, you're going to know about it. I don't ever want anyone to move here and tell me that I didn't show them something or that I misrepresented that house. And I do tell them on the video when I'm on my initial call, like, don't freak out. I'm going to be pointing out everything wrong with the house. It's not to say it's a bad house, but it's just so that you understand what you're buying. And a lot of times after the first video, a lot of them, they feel more comfortable once they see my how I do the videos for the first time. But then I upload in my Google Drive and I share them in the folder. So they can watch it over and over again at any time. And I always make sure it's all parties can watch those videos.
Yeah. That's awesome. I do the same thing too. I also don't like FaceTime because of service too. Like their service might be, or you might have to like focus so much longer and then they forget. You can't rewind. So yeah, it's Google Drive. You'll get access to the link. You can watch it as many freaking times as you want. Yeah, good.
Yeah. And I like to go over that in the initial call so they understand that that's what they're getting from me. And then I do go over my buyer agency agreement with them because I do tell them I will not start up any showings or do waste my time unless they sign it. So if they don't sign it, they can go find another agent and I'm very open and honest with them about that. And I'm very much like, nope, this is how I work and that's just it. I'm not going to waste with someone that's like, I'm also talking to this agent over here, but I want you to show me 5 houses. I'm not doing it, especially if they're videos. I'm like, I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting your time too at the same time. So, and I explained to them too, like, it's not just for me. the buyer agency protects them as well. It protects them against, like, if they don't have one signed and I go show a property and now you're interested in it, if the listing agent asks me anything about you, I legally work for that seller now because I don't have anything signed with you. So I legally have to tell them. I mean, will I? Probably not. But I do. I do tell them. No, I know. but I do tell them, like, that's part of it. So signing it also protects them as well. So a lot of times they're more willing to sign if they know it's also protecting them. And I tell them too, like, that commission amount is probably going to change because I have to have it exactly what the MLS says. So just be prepared. We're going to change that. And the seller is most likely paying for it. And I work with a lot of VA buyers. VA is not allowed to pay your commission. So I let them know that as well, because sometimes they see that 3% and they don't want to sign, even though you explained everything. But once they realize the seller's paying that, they're not paying it.
They're like, I'll sign.
Yeah.
This is super interesting. I like to hear how you explain things because, like, even for that buyer agency agreement, it's interesting because, like, all of us have our own process, and real estate is a team sport in some ways, but it's also very individual. And if you're not with people on their appointments, you don't get the insight of, like, hearing exactly, like, the words you use to make it so that the buyer understands and is willing to agree. So that is super cool. Hey, question though, do you, on the video walkthroughs, do you use the sight unseen disclosure? I think it's
I do.
Disclosure. Okay.
I do still have them sign that. If they're going to put an offer in, I usually send it over with the offer to purchase. And I do talk to them about that if they're PCSing here, that it's going to be all sight unseen. That technically, yes, they saw it, but to me, it's not in person. I still want them signing that.
Totally. Like an extra cover your.
Yeah. In Arizona, actually, you have to, like, unless the buying party physically steps in, it has to be a sight unseen, and they have to waive the final walkthrough as well. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just do a final walkthrough for them with videos.
We can't do that. Ooh, agents
really?
Get in trouble. Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
They have to waive the final walk. I mean, of course, we will do it. We will go and we will walk through the property, but we cannot formally do the final walkthrough for you. An uncle maybe could if they wanted to do that, but agents.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
As you're going through this, like the whole hour and a half-ish phone call, what do you see as, like, your normal biggest objections or hurdles that you have to overcome in your conversations with buyers?
Honestly, it is usually the buyer agency agreement. Sometimes it really is, because sometimes they don't quite understand, like, why I'm wanting them to sign it. So some people, they're just willing, oh yeah, it's not a big deal, I'll sign it. It's not a big deal. And then others, they just don't quite understand, like, well, I didn't have to sign it with this other realtor. She showed me houses and didn't have to sign it. So sometimes it's that, especially if they've already been with other realtors especially in Fayetteville, and they didn't have them sign anything and they were showing them all kinds of properties. And I'm like, well, that's exactly why I want you to sign it, because now you're talking to me. So a lot of times
they're not getting paid. Yeah. All those agents just
put
their time.
Paid. Yeah. And I explain that to my buyers too. I don't get paid until we close. So, I mean, everything I'm putting in for you, I'm putting in up front. But, that's usually what it is.
Interesting. Okay, gotcha. So then the conversation goes, however long, and you are leaving it with what? Like, what does the shift in the way ahead look like?
So I tell them that I'll be sending over my buyer agency agreement and working with real estate agents for them to sign. Once they sign that, that's when we start the house search. I'll start sending them houses that match their criteria. And then I will also tell them, send me what the ones you like on Zillow. And we'll schedule and go see them. I know, like, some agents are like, oh, I will only show you this many. You have to put an offer in. I'm not really like that. I do feel like some buyers don't know exactly what they like until they actually start seeing the homes. And a lot of times you'll find too that their buyer box will shift and change just because they didn't realize, like, until I start looking, that, oh, this is more of a negotiable, not a must have, or I really want this type of thing. So you'll find that shifts. So I don't mind showing multiple houses. And that's also why I like them to send me also what's on Zillow. And I like to tell them that in the meeting, because some buyers are under a perception that you're going to be sending them all the houses that are going to come from you as the realtor. Especially, back in the day, the realtors would only set up like 3 houses, 4 houses. You didn't get to pick them. You didn't even see what they looked like. And then you would go out with them and they would show you the houses. That's how we bought our first house in Fayetteville. We didn't even see anything about them until the day we were in the showing. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
nuts.
and that was like 2010, I think, is when we bought our first house here. And that's the house we went to live in. But yeah, they didn't like send you houses like, oh, do you like this one? Do you want to go see this one? That's not how it worked. Like,
well, I wonder if that was the agent.
Maybe. I don't know. But
It's so crazy.
I've heard other buyers tell me the same thing, especially if they bought them in the early 2000s and especially bought it in the 90s because there was really no.
This short pause is to tell you that this podcast ain't free. Y'all, tap on the 5 stars and leave a review with your Instagram handle. If you're funny, we might give you a shout out on the next episode. Thank you so much. Back to the show.
At that point, I mean, the way with like the MLS and like, I guess the lack of clear cooperation, I have no idea. Like at that point, that's when it was important to choose an agent as a buyer or a seller, to choose an agent that was with like a big name brokerage because they had access to more properties. And now everyone has access to everything. So yeah, they do. I don't know.
The brokerage doesn't matter. Yeah.
The nice part is a lot of buyers don't understand the process, so they still need a realtor.
Oh yeah. And they can't negotiate and they don't know the forms. Yeah. So, or rather if they can negotiate, whatever. How do you have that conversation with someone that's like, oh, you know, that thinks that I thought you were going to send me properties. I have to look for properties myself. How does that go?
So I tell them I'm going to send them whatever I find. And I do tell them I look at the MLS every single day. I look at it once a day. I'm not looking at multiple times. So if it comes in the morning and I see it, I'm going to be sending them out. And I do look and see what was there the day before. But I do tell them, like, if you're already looking on Zillow knows exactly what you want because you're looking at those houses, and Zillow will start emailing you. Oh, look, this house just hit the market. It matches your criteria. And they just start automatically emailing them like these houses if they want it or not, usually going off of whatever they looked on Zillow. So I just tell them, you know, you just send it to me. I'll also send you houses. So I almost make it like a back and forth. Like, you're going to send me houses and I'm going to send you houses that you like. And I also tell them too, like, it's going to help me to determine what you like by you sending me houses as well, because I can start narrowing down more and sending it to them. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to just start sending them houses and they don't resonate with that buyer, because the buyer now feels like you didn't listen to them. You didn't hear what they wanted. So that's what they hear and they see when you start sending them houses that they don't even like. So that's how I explain it to them. I just want them to realize, like, hey, it's an open relationship and you're going to be sending me houses and I'll be sending you houses. And I also tell them I want feedback on those houses I'm sending you. I want the good and the bad about those houses so I can refine my search a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you talk to them at all about if they are looking on Zillow? There are so many agents that pop up on Zillow, you know, super easy, you know, request to view this property. What does that conversation look like to not talk to those agents?
So a lot of times if they've already signed, if they're going to sign my thing, they're not going to anyways. I've only had a couple people ask me about that. And I've even gotten a few agents or a few clients that have tried to do that. And I tell them, like, that agent that you're reaching out to doesn't know anything about that property. They don't. They're just a random agent on Zillow, because a lot of times they think they're reaching out to the listing agent. And I'm like, you're not like reaching out to the listing agent. That's just an agent that pays for their ads or that pays to be put on there. You can find other agents on there, but usually the ones that pop up, it's just random agents. So I tell them a lot of times it's just the fact that they don't know the house and they still have to do the same thing I do. They're going to have to look it up on the MLS to actually give you any information about that house. And then too, like, if you notice, like, if they do use it, they'll find out real fast that it is a random agent calling you back. It just randomly gets sent out to different agents.
You mentioned that you hang up the phone or you get off the call, right? And then you send the agency agreement or whatever right afterwards. Is that right?
So it depends on when we had the phone call. If we had it more in the evening time, I'll let them know they'll have it by tomorrow morning. If I don't have anything right afterwards, I send it to them. But usually I give them a time frame. Usually I tell them, like, you'll have it within this amount of time frame. And then I also text them. I'll send them a text like, hey, I already sent it over. Please keep an eye out for it. If you don't see it, please check your spam. So
yeah, totally.
I always make sure that I'm texting.
Dude, I got this from Drake, and he did it when Drake, my husband, who has been doing wholesaling and direct to seller marketing, this whole past year. And he did this thing, and I'm like, that's really good, is the seller, on the phone is agreeing, yeah, we're good. And he's like, okay, perfect. I just sent it to you. I'll stay on the phone, or I'm going to stay on the call. Just pull it up and then you can sign it. And then I'll let you know when I get it back on my end. And then he makes them do it on the spot instead of like chasing them down. This is probably a little different, because like your clients like are like, I do want to buy a house, whatever.
Mhm.
But sometimes like with the seller side, like of course they do want to sell, but they're hard to like lock down. And so I thought that was a really cool, interesting tidbit.
That is.
What do
That
you
is actually.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that would actually work with a few of my clients that were hesitant.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well,
Almost makes
hesitant
them.
or the people who aren't good with like follow up or like, some people like as soon as you hang up the phone, you're like, I lost them. They're in fucking Japan.
That's
I don't know
true.
where they're, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
just thought that was interesting.
Usually the people that don't sign it are usually the ones that I found that either are going to take up your time anyways, and then are investors. Investors.
Yeah. Investors
They are
do
one
it.
of the hardest people to lock down to sign anything and to get them started. I'm like, oh, I sent you over my investor email and my investor packet. And then weeks later, I'm like, hey, don't forget to fill it out because I won't move forward with investors unless they fill out that questionnaire that I send them. And if they will not fill out that questionnaire, that means they're not going to be a great person to work with because you can't even do a simple task. That's the way I see it as. So I won't even set up a meeting with them unless I get that back from my investors. I'm a little strict with my investors.
Yeah, I don't even work with first time or second time investors. You have to have invested at least twice in order for them to even, in order for me to even work with them. So overall, like with you being a buyer's agent, what other lessons have you learned along the way that you can share with others?
What I've learned is treat your listing agent the way you want your listing agent to treat you, and vice versa. That listing agent should be treating that buyer agent how they want to be treated. I got lucky my first year. I dealt with a lot of great listing agents, and which honestly helped me and taught me the process too of what to expect from a good listing agent. This year, we have been dealing with listing agents lately. They have just been complete crap, not responding, not doing, like as soon as they're under contract, all of a sudden we've been having so much craziness happen with listing agents that I'm just like, what the heck is going on? Because last year I had such a great experience, and I'm thankful I did because it did teach me like, hey, you should be following up with that agent all the time. And not only that, but everyone's human beings. Like you should just be treating them how you want them to treat you. And I wish that a lot of agents would realize that and understand that, because there is a lot of agents that are just so pushy. It's just all about them and their client that they don't stop to think about how they're treating that agent.
And it sucks too, because you guys like really are a team. You both want the same thing. Everyone wants to close. Everyone wants their clients to, get a positive experience and have, success. So like by doing that right off the bat, it's like, wow, why are you making this harder for us? Like we could be working together. Yeah, I feel you.
Oh my gosh. So what's next for you? Like what's the next like piece of the agent puzzle that you're working on?
Well, it's just going to be figuring out how me and John meshes together and how we want to move forward, which we're getting there. We're finding out like each other's strengths and weaknesses and just using them. So like, I don't mind paperwork. I don't really mind it. Actually, I find it super easy and quick to do. So I have a hard time wanting to pay for a TC. He's the opposite. He's great at talking to people, but he doesn't want to do the paperwork.
I could see that.
That's
So
a great team then.
Yeah. So we've just been taking on each other's strengths and weaknesses. So, I mean, some of the clients that I have a hard time dealing with, I'm like, that's your type of client. And then also we're just gauging like what clients, because he can be very abrasive. So like if we have a client that needs a little more nurturing or needs someone to speak a little nicer to them, the client's going to come to me. So we are just kind of using that as a way to move forward. And then we are hoping to just start doing as many deals as possible, really to fund our farm. So that's what John's working on the marketing piece.
Dude, you guys should do a hashtag fund the farm. Yeah, on all of your closings. Actually, you shouldn't. That's probably not.
I should actually. I like
but
that.
I like it.
I like that too. I'm gonna start putting that on my closings. Hashtag.
Do it. Yeah, and then you make t-shirts.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so what does that look like though? You guys said as many as possible. Do you have like a number goal for the next 12 months?
Ideally, we would like to have a closing every week is really our goal. June is going to be really great for us. We have, I think, 6 closings right now coming up in June, and we're hoping just to keep that momentum. So we're already like, oh, we need more people, because I do have one person looking right now, which he just put an offer in. So, I mean, he might be under contract. We'll see. And I'm like, we just need more. So we are just trying to figure out different ways to market and just really bring in people. And we want to be able to, people think of real estate, especially military, that they think of us. So we are trying to get on on the military base as much as possible. So we've gotten some of our banners up in a couple of the gyms on post, which a lot of people said they don't know how we did it. I thank John for that. John is just very, very persistent. Plus,
Dude,
with him being
is.
military, he knows the right people to go to anyways. So, and I say he flirts a lot to the women, the older women that are like, yes, we just do it this way. So I was just like, yeah, you have to be the one to do it because there's no way I would not have.
That you're flirting with the older women? Yeah, I can't see it.
He says he's charismatic. And I'm like, it's a little bit of flirting, but it's okay. And then we're
anything
also,
for the farm.
Yep, anything for the farm. Yes. And then we're also doing the 4th of July event this year on Fort Bragg. So we're hoping that's going to generate a lot of business.
Ooh, what's
so
that?
We gotta get.
And how are you going to make that generate business?
So the 4th of July here, they have it in the big, huge field, but they have vendors that always show up, and it's an all-day event. They have bands that play there. They have a spot for the kids to play, and there's always vendors there with their booths. So we're going to have a booth there, and we're trying to decide what we're going to be giving out. We might even do a raffle, so that way people have to give us their information so to give it out.
Yes, do the raffle.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, so we definitely do the raffle, and then we're just trying to figure out like what free stuff to give away. So we're going to try to get our branding on almost everything that we're giving out. So we're supposed to be working on that in the next week and two.
Nice, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. As we move on to like the wrap up questions, is there any last piece of advice or any other like parting words that you want to share?
Not that I can think of.
Cool.
We went over a lot.
Just like no more questions. Next.
Awesome. What is your favorite app or tool that you use, either for your personal life or business or both?
So honestly, it's going to be the one I originally had as my golden nugget. I tried to put it as my golden nugget before I understood what it was, because I didn't quite understand what it was. But it's just going to be like your task thing to do in your Google Calendar. I use that thing for everything. So every time I have anything that comes in, I put it on there, and I always put what clients for if it's real estate, or I put all my personal stuff on there too. And I put it for the task, and I assign it a date. If it's like immediate, then it's going to be that day's task. And then I just prioritize in the morning. I prioritize how I'm going to tackle it. And usually it goes off of, of course, stuff that has to get done immediately. But I also like it because the stuff that isn't, if you don't make it to it, it rolls over and just as a pending task. And then I always try to do my pendings before I do any of my other that day's tasks. That way it's always getting done. But then I don't feel as stressed if I don't get everything done, because I'm like, oh, that can go for tomorrow. It's not a big deal. So that just helps me a lot. And that's probably like the main thing I use in our business, besides some of the stuff that John's created that I'm being forced to use. So
it's crazy how many people say like the Google Calendar. Everyone is saying like the Google Calendar is their favorite app or tool. Not everyone, but it's a lot of people.
So I don't really like the Google Calendar itself. I just like the task. The task.
Oh, the
option.
Task part.
Yes, the task part.
Gotcha.
I'm really bad about calendars. I just don't like seeing all my block of time taken up. And it gives me high anxiety when my calendar looks extremely full.
Like
it's also probably why. Yes. That's probably also why I haven't used Calendly yet either, because then I'm like, well, then I have to actually manage my calendar and actually have it appropriately so that people aren't booking weird times.
Rebecca, when you guys are doing 52 closings a year, though, I'm telling you, it's okay. We'll talk offline about this calendar. We're going to get you set up. Okay, next question is, what events are you going to this year?
The 4th of July one. Well, it's not really, I guess, a real estate event, but that's our main big event. And then, of course, the 5 Pillars team thing in November.
Pillars Retreat.
Yeah, Pillars Retreat.
That's really it. I'm so excited about that. But okay, perfect. As long as you're coming to the Pillars Retreat. Yep. We're good.
Yeah, I already told John we're going to that, so he has to suck it up. So
how can we help you in your business?
Just send people my way. That'd be great. Anybody that's coming to Fort Bragg, Fayetteville area, we would love to be their go-to agent. You get a husband on my team, so really you're getting 2 agents for 1, which is nice. I try to advertise that as much as possible.
Yeah, I was like, she said that before. For sure.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, perfect. And when people are sending clients referrals to Fayetteville, North Carolina, where can they find you to send them?
They can send it to my email, which is rebecca.fortier@me.com, or on my Instagram, which is real space estate with Rebecca. There we go.
I was gonna say I'll look it up. Like,
We have
need
it.
me to confirm.
We have it somewhere, I think.
And then my Facebook's just Rebecca Fortier.
Oh yeah, real_estate with Rebecca.
Yeah.
For those that don't know how to spell your last name, I will spell it. It is Fortier, because I would know that I wouldn't be able to spell it otherwise. So yeah. So that's where you can find her and John, who was on a previous episode. And if you are looking to follow us at The Be More Show on Instagram. We have an Instagram, as well as Allie the Agent, The Shelby Show. We answer all messages, so hit us up. Well, if you're going to message us, hit us up individually. Allie the Agent, The Shelby Show. We will respond back as long as you don't sound like too creepy. That's it for today. We did it!
We did it! We did it! Woo!
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Yes. Thank you so much. Okay.
It was great.
And, good. You know what to do?
Be a bro and share this show.
Thanks for listening, dude. If you want the golden nugget that this guest provided, see the show notes or just go straight to theagentgoldmine.com. That's where we keep the resources for you. Till next time.